Okay, so you've given us some really interesting sources this time, looking at electric vehicles, rare earth elements, and how these all tie into global trade tensions.
That's right. It's a fascinating intersection.
And our mission here for this deep dive is really to pull out the key insights. Why are these elements suddenly, so central to commercial conflicts? And what does it all mean for industries like EVs?
Exactly. And we have to remember the backdrop here is, well, it's the ongoing strategic competition. Think U.S.-China, mainly.
Right, the tariffs, the trade barriers,
Yeah.
that's been going on for a while.
It has. But now it seems like controlling essential resources, like these rare earths, is becoming a new, powerful tactic in these interactions.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. Rare earth elements, the name itself is, well, it sounds a bit confusing. What are we actually talking about?
Yeah, it is a bit of a misnomer. They're a group of 17 chemical elements, on the periodic table. And scientists often group them maybe light, medium, heavy categories.
Yeah.
Though, like you said, the sources sometimes differ on exactly how they split them up.
Uh-huh.
You hear names like neodymium, dysprosium.
Yeah.
They sound pretty exotic.
Definitely not things you talk about every day. And the rare part, you mentioned it's misleading. It's not that there isn't much of it.
Precisely.
Yeah.
They're not actually geologically that scarce. The name rare really comes from how they're found.
Mhm.
They're usually dispersed, low concentrations in ores, not in big, easy-to-mine deposits.
Okay.
So getting them out, extracting them, refining them. That's the hard part. It's technically challenging, expensive,
Yeah.
so difficult to get, not necessarily rare to find.
That makes a lot more sense. So, okay, we know they're crucial for electric vehicles, which we'll get into, but where else do these elements pop up?
Well, they're surprisingly common in modern tech. Besides EV motors, a huge use is in permanent magnets.
Right.
These super strong magnets are vital for things like wind turbines, turning wind into electricity. And then you've got electronics, pretty much all of them. Smartphones, tablets, computers. They're in tiny speakers, vibration motors, other components.
So literally in the phone in my pocket right now.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe less obviously, but critically important is their use in military technology.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
things like radar systems, sonar, even guided missiles. One of the sources, the Guerre Commerciale one, really points this out. It underscores their strategic value.
Wow. Okay. So from smartphones to defense systems, that really drives home how important these materials have become, which I guess leads us straight to the big player, China. The stats you shared are pretty stark.
They really are.
Yeah.
It's more than just a big share, it's dominance. Right now, China mines about, 70% of the world's rare earths?
70%.
Yeah, something like 270,000 tons out of a global total of maybe 390,000 tons. But the really critical part is the processing.
Refining them.
Exactly. They handle something like 90% of the world's rare earth processing. And if you look just at the heavy rare earths, it's almost total control, 99.9%.
99.9%. That's basically a monopoly, isn't it? That level of control must give them huge leverage.
Oh, absolutely. And this is where the current trade situation comes in.
The trigger for all this concern.
Right. As the sources suggest, China reportedly stopping some rare earth exports seems to be a direct reaction to those 125% tariffs the U.S. put on Chinese goods.
So it's retaliation, but using resources instead of just more tariffs.
Exactly. They're leveraging that control over a vital material. It's a new angle in the trade disputes. Rare earths as a, quote, strategic weapon, as one source put it.
A strategic weapon. And that obviously has huge potential impacts, especially for electric vehicles, right? I mean, that sector's booming.
Definitely. It's about putting pressure on a critical supply chain. And the EV industry is right in the crosshairs because it depends so heavily on these elements.
So let's dive into that link. How exactly are rare earths so vital for EVs? What's the specific connection?
It really comes down to the motors. You see, about 70 to 80% of electric vehicles use what are called permanent magnet motors. Okay. And these motors need really powerful magnets. Magnets made with specific rare earth elements, neodymium, samarium, terbium, dysprosium are key ones.
What do they do for the magnets?
They give them incredible strength and, crucially, allow them to work well at high temperatures. That's essential for powerful, efficient electric motors. One of the experts quoted, Nicola Armaroli from Italy CNR, really stressed how vital they are for current EV motors.
So are there alternatives? Other motor types?
There are, yes. Induction motors, for example, which don't rely so heavily on rare earths. But
the performance isn't quite there,
Yeah.
or there are other downsides.
generally, yeah, there are often trade-offs. maybe lower power density, less efficiency, maybe they're bigger or heavier. Right now, for many EV makers, these rare earth permanent magnets offer the best all-around performance package.
Got it. And how much are we actually talking about per vehicle?
It's not a huge amount by weight, actually. The average EV has about half a kilogram, 0.5 kilograms of rare earth elements in its motor.
Half a kilo. Okay, that doesn't sound like a ton individually, but scale that up. Millions of EVs being made.
Exactly. We saw some figures for 2023. Around 9.5 million battery EVs sold globally.
Right.
So do the math. That works out to about 4.5 kilotons, or 4,750 tons, of rare earths just for EVs in 2023.
And how does that compare to the total demand for rare earths?
Well, total demand for everything in 2023 was around 93 kilotons. So EVs accounted for roughly 5.1% of that total.
5%. Okay, still seems relatively small overall, but I imagine the projections for the future look quite different, given the EV push.
Oh, absolutely. That's where it gets really interesting. The IEA, the International Energy Agency, they project huge growth in demand.
Driven by EVs and
wind power, mainly. Both key parts of the clean energy transition. Their forecast suggests demand could hit 134 kilotons by 2030.
Wow, quite a jump from 93.
And then maybe 169 kilotons by 2040.
So demand is potentially almost doubling in less than 2 decades. And what does that mean in terms of market value? Money.
Big money. The market was around $7 billion in 2023. Forecasts put it at maybe $10 to $12 billion by 2030.
And by 2040.
Potentially $11 to $13 billion. So yeah, a rapidly growing, very valuable market.
Which brings us right back to who controls the supply. And it sounds like China's grip isn't expected to loosen much.
That seems to be the consensus, unfortunately. The IEA projections show China, maybe alongside Australia, Myanmar, Malaysia, maintaining a kind of oligopoly.
In both mining and processing.
Yes. They're projected to still account for over 54% of global mining and a massive 77% of the world's refining capacity.
77% of refining. And crucially, Europe and the U.S. They're not really on that list of top producers or refiners, are they? Now, or in the future projections?
No, they're not. And that really highlights the dependency, the vulnerability for Western economies.
It really does. And it seems China is, well, starting to use that leverage now.
That's what the reports indicate. They're apparently putting special conditions on exports,
Yeah.
particularly for those heavy rare earths, basically creating a choke point.
A bottleneck.
Yeah, using it as a bargaining chip in negotiations.
So it's moved beyond a potential threat. It's an active strategy. And these limitations, these special conditions, could cause serious problems, couldn't they? Way beyond just EVs.
The potential for disruption is definitely there. Remember that expert, Armoroli? He pointed out that many companies run on lean inventories.
Just-in-time supplies.
Exactly. Saves costs in normal times, but leaves you incredibly vulnerable if the supply gets squeezed. You don't have big stockpiles to fall back on.
And finding substitutes isn't easy, you said.
Not easy at all, especially not quick, effective substitutes for these specific elements in high-performance applications. It compounds the problem.
And we need to keep reminding ourselves it's not just EVs. What other sectors are at risk?
Well, wind turbines, like we mentioned. The aerospace industry relies on them, too.
Yeah.
And critically, defense, radar, sonar, missiles. A supply disruption there has obvious national security implications.
Absolutely. There was also that interesting perspective from Giuliano Noci about the longer-term strategy.
Ah, yes, the professor from Milan. He made a really sharp point. Decades ago, while the West was obsessed with securing oil,
Right.
China was apparently focusing strategically on locking up rare earth resources. He suggests they saw further ahead, understood the future importance of these materials for tech.
So this isn't just a reaction to recent tariffs. It's potentially the result of decades of planning.
That's his argument. And that foresight has put them in a very powerful position today.
It really changes how you look at the current situation. It's this significant dependence built up over time, hitting these supply chain vulnerabilities, and likely meaning higher costs down the line.
That's the core issue, yeah. It goes beyond the immediate trade spat. It's about resource security in a competitive world.
So what's the answer then? For Europe, for the U.S.?
Well, it points towards needing strategies to diversify supply. That could mean investing heavily in domestic mining and processing, even though it's difficult and expensive.
Finding new sources, collaborating with other countries.
That's exactly. International partnerships. And, maybe most importantly, long-term, pouring resources into R&D. finding alternative materials, designing motors or technologies that just don't need these specific rare earths anymore.
Reducing the dependence, fundamentally.
That would be the ideal scenario long term.
Okay, so pulling all these threads together from our deep dive, it's clear rare earth elements have gone from, kind of obscure footnote materials to a major battleground in global trade.
Absolutely. Front and center.
China's dominance in mining and especially processing gives them real clout. And their recent actions are causing major concern, particularly for EVs, but also raising these fundamental questions about resource security, future competition.
Precisely. It just shows how things we barely thought about can suddenly become critical geopolitical flashpoints.
Which leads to maybe a final thought for everyone listening. We've seen how reliant we are on these specific, perhaps overlooked elements. What other hidden dependencies might be lurking out there, quietly shaping global power dynamics in ways we haven't quite grasped yet?
That's a really important question to consider.
Definitely something to think about. Thank you for walking us through this complex but incredibly important topic. And if you, our listener, found this deep dive valuable and want to keep exploring the forces shaping our world, please do subscribe to our channel.
We'd appreciate that.
We look forward to bringing you more in-depth analysis soon.